This movie is on colors, font and fill colors, fill effects, and patterns. First, we'll look at colors that we can apply to the font itself and to the cell, which is the fill color. There's two color models to adjust the color with: red, green, blue, and Hue Saturation Luminosity. Then we'll take a look at fill effects and patterns. I've got a schedule set up so that we can talk about font, fill colors, patterns, and fill effects. It maps out the different color options that we have, which we'll get into in a second. I want to start with explaining where to find the functionality to change the font and fill colors. It's in several places, as usual, and it's in the same sort of places as in other formatting options. It's in the font group on the Home tab. That's the fill color options. That's the font color options. You can left-click the cell and right-click and pull up the shortcut menu and get a toolbar that has those same options, the fill color options and the font color options. You can double-click the cell, select some text, and get the mini toolbar, and we have the font color options, not the fill. And these options are also located, escaping out of that, on the Format Cells dialog box. The font color options are there. The fill color options are here. So at first, I'm going to work out of the font group on the Home tab. And I'm going to change the color of this font to a standard color, red. And a couple things happen. When I drop down again, I get red that's boxed out in the standard color listing, as opposed to if I would have selected green. Green is boxed out. So Excel will display the color that's set for the cell that's selected, which can be helpful many times because some of the hue differences in these colors are fairly subtle. And if you're trying to match one color to another color in another range, it's helpful to know where you're starting. The other thing that happens is, and I'm going to left click to get rid of that, is the setting for the command button changes from black, that's what it was, to green, which is what we just selected, so that I can click and select another cell with text and then left click the command button and change that color to the exact same color that I previously used. The other thing worth talking about, I'm going to drop down again, is the first block of colors says theme colors. Now, what are those? Theme colors allow you to establish colors within a range of colors, as you can see, for different components of your spreadsheet or your workbook, so that you can later on go into the color themes and change from one theme to another. And Excel will apply that new theme to all the different components that you've already established a theme color for. So you can switch from theme color to theme color, and your entire workbook will change colors based on the new theme choice. This allows you to establish a uniform look from workbook to workbook if you always use the same theme. And we'll talk a lot more about themes in the movie that's about themes. So in addition to theme colors and standard colors, we also have more options with more colors. This is a color grid, sort of a honeycomb structure, where you can select a different color option by left-clicking one of these six-sided figures, and you get a preview at the bottom, the new and the current. And once you select a color, left-click OK, and I've changed the font color. But we have more options. I'm going to left-click and select some cells in column F, drop down the fill color, left-click more colors, and then left-click custom. There are two color models. The default is RGB, or red, green, blue. This functionality allows you to establish a red, green, and blue hue based on a number that ranges from 0 to 255. Now what that means is that there's 255 choices for each one of these colors, and doing the math, the permutations, and multiplying each one of those options results in over 16.5 million color choices. So the way this works, and I've got a schedule set up to identify at least the extreme ends of all of these settings, is Since we want red in column F, red is all the way. We can adjust the hue setting for red, but I'm going to go with a pure red, select OK, and we get a fill color that fills in the selected cells with the color we just chose. And these color options are available also as a font color option. And this time I'm going to go to the other color model, which is Hue Saturation Luminosity. Hue is the color, and there's a range of settings that correspond to different colors, 0 being red, 20 is orange, and so on. Saturation is the contrast, so that you can reduce the intensity or increase the intensity of the color, and luminosity is the brightness. The setting ranges from pure white to pure black, with the midpoint being just displaying the color in its pure form. So that's applicable to fill colors and to font colors. There are also patterns that we can establish within a cell, a selected range of cells, and I have a selected range of cells. I'm going to left click and launch the Format Cells dialog box, left click Fill, and then left click the drop down where I have 18 different patterns to select from, to choose from. Now many times when you use this, if there is text in the cells, it makes the text difficult to read. As you can imagine, the darker and more busy the pattern is, the more that is true. I'm going to left click one that doesn't add too much busyness to the cells, and I can also change the color of the pattern. We have the same color options we just explored. I'm going to leave it at black, left click OK, left click off of that, and show you that we've established a pattern for that range of cells. This can provide more contrast and call out different areas that may be specific onto themselves and need to be identified visually separately from other blocks of data that may be on your worksheet. The last thing we can do is establish some fill effects. And again, I'm going to select some cells, left click the Format Cells dialog box, left click Fill, and then left click Fill Effects. And the fill effects, as you can see, we're not going to go through all of them, of course. You can choose one or two colors. You first select the color, and I'll drop down and we can see that we have, again, the same color options. And blue, one of the theme colors, the top line, the fifth column in, has a box around it because that's the current color choice. I'll change that to green. And after selecting the color, we have options as to which direction we want this shading to color the cell in. I'm going to select horizontal, left click OK, left click OK again, click off of that, and we get some interesting fill effects. This can provide some depth to some areas of text or content, and if it's not overused, you can create sort of a professional, clean look to your spreadsheet, especially if you turn off the grid lines. So we took a look at font colors and fill colors, and along the way we found out that we had over 16 million options to choose from. We introduced the theme colors briefly. There are two color models, the red, green, blue model, where you can adjust each one of those color intensities that generates over 16.5 million color options, and the Hue Saturation Luminosity settings that allows us to adjust the color and the intensity and the brightness of that color. We also took a look at patterns, which we had 18 different options that we can use to fill the cells with, the selected cells, and we can also change the color of the patterns. And lastly, we looked at fill effects, where you can establish a color and give that color some dimension within the cell by fading it in any one of a number of different directions.